What's up, guys? Today I got another video of just me talking, and the topic that I'm going to be talking about is methadone treatment for opiate addiction or opioid addiction. So this video goes out to all my heroes in the methadone clinics. I've been asked to do this by a patron of mine and subscribers in the comment section, and friends that I knew from the past hit me up like, you know, how do I deal with this? And so I'm just going to talk to you guys about it. I made this video once already, and I talked for an hour. I talked for an hour and my phone died after 30 minutes. So I'm going to try to make this one a lot quicker. I'm not going to get into all the side stories that I got into on that one. I'm just going to talk about why I got on methadone, what my course was like throughout the program, and then how I got off it. And remember, every state's programs, every city's programs for methadone, they're different. They all have different rules. And the one I went to was pretty unique in that, well, most of them that I hear of don't have limits to the dose, and mine had a 100 milligram limit. And I thank God for that, because it made me go into it thinking 80, 90, 100 milligrams, those are the upper doses. But I hear about some people that, I knew a guy who was dual dosed. He got dosed in the morning and night. He would do, I think, 160 in the morning and 120 at night. So crazy amounts. So he was on 280, you know, a day, and that's insane. But I'm gonna try to explain it. So even if you are on a higher dose, then the highest I ever got was 80, which is not, I mean, it's all relative. It's not super high, but to me it was pretty high. I was almost as the highest my clinic could go. But anyway, why I got on the methadone, I'm not going to tell you my whole drug life story. This video may not be super family friendly because of the topic, but it's going to be about overcoming it, not falling prey to it. So basically, I got on the methadone because I had been shooting up for a number of months, and I had become homeless, and I was just running amok, and I got my tax return from McDonald's. I shouldn't have said that. I should have said I got my tax return from a burger joint. It was okay. There's going to be another couple burger joints mentioned. I'll just say burger joints. But got my tax return from McDonald's. It was $1,200 plus a paycheck of $600. So I had $1,800 and 2 weeks till I got paid again. 2 weeks later, I get paid again. I have no money left, and I spent 90% of it on heroin, and then the other 10% on other drugs and food, basically. And so I got that other paycheck after I blew that $1,800, and I was at a $80 to $120 a day heroin habit, and I knew I couldn't sustain it. I knew the only reason I got up that high level was because of that tax return, that big chunk of money, and so I knew there's no way I can sustain this. So I need to get on methadone. And I knew you could go to the 4th Street Clinic, which is the clinic for the homeless people. Your town probably has a clinic for homeless people that you don't even know about because you never went there. But you can go get, medical stuff for free at the 4th Street Clinic. And if you go to 2 one-on-one appointments and 1 drug group counseling appointment at the 4th Street Clinic, they'll refer you to the methadone clinic. And I knocked all that out in a week, luckily. The group is only every 2 weeks, but I happened to go on a Monday, and there was a group on Friday. So within 4 days, I had all 3 of my appointments knocked out, because I had to go quick. I only had $600, and I was burning through it. And then they set you up with your appointment. You go to the methadone clinic. You got to get there at 6 in the morning. You got to be withdrawing, so they don't want you to use within 24 hours. I had it used within like 8 hours. And once you're in there, they monitor you for a long time. You do some paperwork. I think I was there till like 11, so 6 a.m. till 11 a.m. So like 5 hours I was there. They take your blood pressure every hour until they feel like you're sufficiently withdrawing, and then they give you your dose. And they start you at 30 milligrams. The highest my clinic would go was 100. So the way I always looked at it was every 10 milligrams was like a dime of black. And if I had, by this time, since I didn't have the tax money, I had to lower my habit a little bit. I was using $60 to $80 worth a day. So I thought 30 milligrams today I'm just going to spend, you know, $40. And that's what I did. So I started from pretty much from the day I started the methadone, just because of lack of money. I had to taper my heroin use down a lot. And so, and you can only raise your dose like every 2 weeks, and you got to go at 6 in the morning and see the doctor, tell them that your dose isn't sustaining you, and then they let you bump it up, and you could go up in increments of 10 milligrams. So I went up slowly, and, you know, like, as I went up, my heroin use would go down, and I made sure of that, because that was the point of being on the methadone. You know, at the time it was because I had an unsustainable habit and it was ruining my life and I had to get off, but I wasn't ready to get off. I really wanted to not be spending $80 a day, $60 a day, $70, $100 a day every day. So to save money was initially why I got on the methadone, actually, probably. But and I wasn't ready to quit, and I just steady raised my dose up, and when I got to about 60 milligrams, I sat there for a while, and I would use, you know, I could get through almost the whole day without using. Take my methadone in the morning. Let me just tell you, methadone is not a shot or something. It's a little cup. They put some juice in it with some Kool-Aid, and you get Kool-Aid and you take a sip. A nurse gives it to you behind a glass. You got to check in every morning. You got to go down to the clinic. So if anybody tells you because you're on methadone that, and maybe that's all you do is methadone, and they say, well, you're still a junkie because you're still, you know, don't listen to them, because a junkie is the one going and panhandling and then robbing the store for some candy, taking it to the block, selling it, and then buying dope all day long. That's and staying in the shelter, and that's a junkie. And that's not even a pejorative. That's just somebody's going through something. And so don't listen to people that tell you that. Ignore it. They don't know what they're talking about. Do what you do, how you do it, and as long as you're doing what's right. And methadone is a step in the right direction. So anyway, once my dose was at about 60, I think I had been there for like 2 years. This is very slow. This was a slow process. It took me like 2 years, and I asked them to bump me up again. They said, okay, we'll put you to 70. Because by this time I'm using like 1 or 2 Bs a night, and that's all I need is at night, and I feel like I just need a little more for my dose. So I go up to 70, and I ride that out for a while, and still failing all my drug tests for heroin, occasionally for meth, and always for weed. And so you can't move up through the steps of the program. And one day I said, can I go up 10 more milligrams without passing a drug test? And they said, really, you shouldn't, but yeah, we'll do it, because I was using very little. And I went to 80, and I was still in the shelter, and I got to where I could go 2-3 days without using at 80 milligrams. I was good there. Sustained me all day. I could sleep through the night, finally. I remember when I got to 80, I slept through the night without heroin for the first time in like 3 years, and it was amazing, because the whole time I was homeless, I did not go a day without using until I wanted to, until I was at like 80 milligrams, and I did it, and then I got to where I could do it for like 3-4 nights. But when you're in the shelter and you're trying to quit using something, somebody will always be there with a gift for you every couple of days. And it's like, where were you at when I was fiending over there in the corner? And now here you come when I'm doing fine for 4 days, and you're going to give this to me for free. And that's just how it goes. Satan does not want to let go of his children. He will do everything he can to keep you in his grasp. But what finally ended up happening, I was using, you know, rarely, every 2 to 4 days, I would use like 1 B to go to sleep. And I was fine all the rest of the time. And I was only doing it out of convenience, out of being in the shelter. It's right there. I know this guy. I know that guy. And finally, the clinic told me I had 12 days to get clean of meth and heroin, or they were going to kick me out of the program, and I needed to be in the program. So I said that was the kick in the butt I needed. I said, all right, I'm done. And I just stopped completely. I spent a whole paycheck on camping gear, and I left the shelter. and shortly after started this YouTube channel because I was on the streets, and I had been clean for a minute, and I was like, I want to do something. My creativity was expanding, but I was still on the methadone, and I would still feel tired all day, and not out at work, and not be able to read a book. So I was like, if I'm not using heroin, and I quit using meth, and that was easy. Uppers were never a problem for me to quit. I just go to sleep for a couple days. But but I wasn't shooting up heroin anymore. I left the shelter. I was on the streets, and I went like, once I left the shelter, I relapsed once, and that was on New Year's, which is the last time I used. And so almost a year without shooting anything up, and like 5 weeks without methadone. So so they told me they kicked me out. I stopped using, went out on the streets. It's funny, I left the shelter to get clean from drugs. So I left the shelter and went onto the streets to get off of the drugs, and it worked. So of course I had to ride solo, be a lone wolf. I didn't hang out in the big homeless groups and the homeless crowds. I just did my own thing and stayed to myself, and it worked for me. So now the getting off the methadone part comes in. I had to taper off. I was tired of being tired all the time, tired of not being able to stand up at the register at work, and if no cars are coming for a little while, I start nodding out. That's another burger joint reference. And people yelling at me, "Wake up, Josh!" I'm like, "Sorry, that's my medication." But it happened. I was tired. I was over medicated. So here's how we get to the tapering part. If you are on one of those higher doses, and when I say higher doses, I mean anything over 100. High dose is, in my mind, is like 70 to 100. And then you got your mid doses, which is like your 50s, 60s, 40s. And then the low doses is 30 or below. That's where they start you at, is 30. So when you're in those higher doses, high or up, when you're at anything above 80, I feel like 10% every 2 weeks to a month is a good taper rate. So what you're going to do is you're going to say you're at 160 milligrams. Cut 16 milligrams one day. Cut 16. And then just ride it out for 2 weeks. And see how you feel. The first couple days, it's going to be a mental thing. You're going to think that you're not as well, or that you're not as medicated, but I promise you, 16 off of 160 is 144. So I promise you 144 is still enough to sustain you. So you could cut 10% and then ride it out for a couple weeks, and you'll start to notice maybe those first couple days you don't get that naughty feeling at all. But once like 2 weeks goes by, 3 weeks goes by, you'll start feeling that you're well medicated again, that you'll get that tired feeling when you don't do anything. Like, most people don't just fall asleep when they're not doing something active. That's the medication doing that. If you feel sleepy all the time, that's you're over medicated. And so once you start getting that sleepiness again, cut another 10%. Keep doing that. If you're at a higher dose, keep doing it until you get down to about 80. Once you're at 80, slow down your taper. Now we're going to do, I actually did 10 milligrams every month pretty much, from 80 to 40. So, and I never felt a difference. But when I dropped from 50 to 40 is when I noticed something. I noticed, wow, that's a noticeable difference. And so I slowed down my taper. After I got to 40, I said I'm going to do 2 milligrams. And up until then, it was all sporadic. It was like, if I feel over medicated, I drop my dose down. It might be 2 weeks, might be 3 weeks, might be a month. Once I got to 40, I got on a scheduled taper, 2 milligrams every 2 weeks, from 40 to 20. And I did that, and I felt fine throughout the whole thing. It was a nice, steady, consistent drop, and I was getting from a number I wanted to be at to a number I wanted to be at, and it was okay. Got to 20, and rode that out for a little while, and then I was like, I'm done with this. It's a couple drops in a cup, and eventually I was getting to where 20 milligrams would make me a little bit tired. Definitely not as long as a peak period, but when the methadone peaks is it's like 3 to 5 hours after you take it. So if you take it at 9, then noon to 2 p.m., that's when it's peaking. That's when you'll feel those nods that I'm talking about. If you never noticed them, then you're just staying really active, or I don't know, maybe your tolerance is still real high, or maybe I just nodded out easy. I don't know, but but anyway, once you get to 20 and you tell them that you want to get off, it's going to throw up a red flag. You're going to have to see, I mean, this isn't my clinic, this is my experience, so maybe you won't have to do this, but they don't want you to leave the program and come back. They don't want you to leave unsuccessfully. They want you to go through the program, take all the steps, move through the steps. My thing, the highest step you could get was step 6. That means you go once a week. You get 6 takeouts. I could never get past step 1 because to get to step 2, you need a totally clean UA. To get to step 1, you need to be clean from hardcore stuff. To get to step 2, you got to be clean of everything, which includes weed. And I told him I'm not planning on quitting weed yet. Now, this was a couple months ago, but, well, I told him I do plan on quitting weed, but it's going to be in time, and I'm going to do it on my time. I don't need the methadone to help me get off weed. And so, yeah, the doctor was trying to talk me out of it. Maybe it was because, they need people to leave the program the right way successfully on step 6, because they don't want them to come back. Maybe she was just trying to scare me and test me to see if I really was ready to get off, or maybe it had something to do with funding and they need people there for funding. I don't know. All I know is the doctor, who I had never met before, the psychiatrist doctor, the mind doctor, the one who I don't believe in her profession, told me maybe I should go up in my dose. I said, no, that's stupid. Maybe I should try Vivitrol or Subutex or Suboxone when I get off. I said, no, I'm not trying to transfer to another thing. That doesn't make any sense either. And also, if you're not a heavy opiate user and you use Suboxone, that gets you messed up for like 10 hours. So I was not trying to do that. I didn't need some rod stuck in my arm that keeps me from getting high for 6 months, because I didn't want to get high anymore. I didn't even want to be taking the methadone anymore. I didn't want to go down there anymore. I didn't want anything to do with that part of my life of trying to overcome it. So I stuck to my guns. I said, no, I want to taper off. I had asked him to do 20 milligrams over like a month and a half was the plan that I wrote out. She said, well, we don't want you to get stuck here if you don't want to be here. So maybe we should do 20 milligrams over 10 days. And I said, wait. So because I'm asking to get off the program and because I'm still on step 1, you're going to make me go faster? It doesn't make much sense to me, but I said, run it. If that's the way we got to do it, then run it. Start the taper. And she said, oh, well, we don't have to do it that fast. I'll put in a recommendation that we do it a little slower. So it ended up being 1 milligram every day for 20 days, which is still shorter than I requested. I requested to do it over a month and a half. They made me do it over 20 days. First, they recommended I do it over 10 days. And I was like, no, the reason I did it over a month and a half was so I could do it gradually and slowly. And she said, if you want to do this, you'll see your counselor on Monday, give you the weekend to make up your mind. And so I didn't really think about it at all. My mind was already made up. But 20 milligrams over 20 days, not bad at all. Once your dose is down that low, like, it's all mental. I'm telling you, well, until the very end. Because dropping a milligram a day for 15 days, I didn't feel nothing. The last 5 days, I felt a little weak. I didn't really want to get up and go to the clinic. I got to walk for half an hour there and half an hour uphill back. It was like, but I did it anyway. And then after I was done, I'd say a week, I felt for 5 days, I felt physically weak. I felt like lifting things, and I worked for 2 days. The next 2 days, outside doing raking and pulling weeds. Right after I got off, the next 2 days I worked, and I did it. It was all right. I was definitely slower than I normally am. I was dragging my feet kinda, and So that's one thing. Another thing was sneezes. I sneezed I counted. The first day it was like 36. The second day it was like 30. The third day it was like 24. Then like 20. For like a week straight, I sneezed a lot every day. I'm still sneezing like 4 or 5 times a day, and it's been like more than a month. So, but I used to never sneeze, and now I sneeze like 4 or 5 times a day, and that's been ever since I stopped the methadone. It's kind of weird, but I like sneezing. It feels cool. And then what else? Oh, so forgive the poop talk, but diarrhea. I had diarrhea for about a week afterwards. That was kind of rough, and that could just be my body, because when I was a kid I always had diarrhea, and then I got on opiates and they constipate you, so that was another reason I liked them, because I didn't have to go poop all the time. Great video, huh, guys? This is really grade A content right here. But that's what I did. So yeah, pooping for a week, sneezing for a week, feeling weak for less than a week, really. And then I made that axe video. That's when I was like, I need to get off my butt and go do something. Even though I guess I had worked those 2 days, but then maybe I still felt the methadone half-life or something, because after those 2 days that I worked, I was just like, I didn't want to move, and I just laid around. And but yeah, that was it. And now I feel great. I have no desire to use again. The only times I feel triggered is sometimes I'll start staring at my arms because I can see my veins again. I'm not gonna... Oh, that's a scrape I got from sledding with no gloves. Went really fast, and the ice was, because the handles are right by the ground. But yeah, anyway, I can see my veins again. All the veins I used to hit in my arms and my hands, I can see them, and it's sometimes I'll just start staring at them, and it's not a trigger, but it's like you get like a nostalgic feeling. You get that feeling like you kind of just start thinking on it, and that's when I shake my head and I snap out of it, and I say, what the heck do I care? I'm normal. I have veins in my arms now. All right, that's it. I hope that wasn't an hour. Let me check the time. 22 minutes. It's still pretty long. It's so much I could talk about this stuff, guys. And YouTube's terms of service agreements are changing, and you can't monetize anything that's not considered family appropriate. And there's no profanity in this video, but I don't know if talking about drug addiction is family appropriate. But if you guys like this video, if you give me, I don't know, 50 likes, and you put a comment about something related to drug addiction or overcoming addiction, anything like that, let me know in the comments, and maybe I'll do another video. I'm just worried that I'd like to make some money off this someday. And yeah, a video about methadone and diarrhea might not get it for me, but that's all I got to say, guys. Make sure you subscribe. Check out www.patreon.com/JSUrbanAdventures. And if you become a Patreon, you know, hit me up on there. I don't have any right now, so I don't really do anything on it, but if I get one, then I will. And that's one of the reasons why this video was made. From a Patreon requested that I make a video, and yeah, so a lot of people I know are going through this. So hopefully if this helps one person with getting off of methadone, then thank God. Yeah, now I'm gonna finish hiking out of this mountain. Let's go camping in the snow, coming out soon. Check it out. I wussed out. I was gonna do 2 or 3 days, and I did one night. It's too cold out here, y'all.